Oh boy, another video answering more questions, and you're still jet lagged and wearing your stinky Astros dry fit shirt. Yep. Next question, as dusk happens behind me, I'm in my place in Saigon, Vietnam, because that's where I live now. That happened. Um, I've answered a few of your questions. Oof, excuse me. I've had 4 Vietnamese coffees. Cafe Swada, it's called. The iced Vietnamese coffee. I've had 4 today, and it is not working at all. I'm jet lagged from my 26-hour adventure coming back from Los Angeles, which I've touched on. Um, I gave you the travel update. I gave you the answer to the question why I made a YouTube channel. I gave an answer to the question why did you abandon me and go to the other side of the world from some students. So now the question, why Vietnam? What the hell? Why would you go to Vietnam of all the places in the world that you could go? Why would you go to Vietnam? I've not been looking at the camera, and I don't care to. So back over here, Vietnam is amazing. First of all, the people here have been wonderful. There is a hunger to speak and learn English. There's a hunger to interact with English-speaking foreigners. So I want to say that first and foremost. But I will say that Vietnam, namely, to be straightforward, there's a huge demand for English teachers right now in Vietnam. When I was a graduate student of English in Flagstaff, Arizona in 2007, thinking that I was going to write the next great American novel and be a writer, reality sets in at some point. I got my first class to teach, and I realized, like, hey, whoa, you're right, the student becomes a teacher, and I kind of like this, and I have the skill set to make this work, and I'm getting really good feedback from my students. Maybe I should consider teaching as a career. And as an English teacher, I knew then that that's a profession. I would argue maybe like the medical field is another one, where you can sort of go anywhere in the world and get hired, even as a person that only speaks one language. So as an English speaker, and I'm an intermediate Spanish speaker, but that's beside the point. The knowing that, okay, if I have a degree from a university in the United States, I'm a native English speaker, I have a TEFL certificate, teaching English as a foreign language, which I got while I was a graduate student. I have experience working with non-native speakers in a number of different contexts. So maybe when I finish school and start my career as an English teacher, if I'm in a personal space where I want to bail, feed the travel beast, because I was always a traveler. I was blessed to grow up traveling and have continued to do so. I've been to 17 countries, as I've mentioned in my videos in the past, and maybe we'll do a video about that. Send me questions. Anyway, all that informed this idea of being an English teacher. And so I've always had my eye on the English teaching marketplace, and the ESL marketplace shifted. Like it used to be South Korea and Chile, and then it's sort of shifted to Vietnam and Colombia, right? Latin America and the Far East typically are 2 places where different countries, wherever whatever economic moment they find themselves in, then they sort of emerge. So Vietnam was just kind of hot. Literally and figuratively, when I looked into all of this. I was also directly inspired, as I've mentioned in previous videos, by 3 YouTubers, 3 vlogger guys in Vietnam, Yavato Kim, Kyle Lay, KyleLay.net, and Ninja Teacher Alex Stevenson, right? So I was directly inspired by YouTube. Vietnam is a hotspot for English teaching. The government here is actually subsidizing a push to have all the children bilingual here by the year 2020. There's a similar movement happening in Colombia. So just this sort of subsidized push to open language centers and to recruit foreign native speakers of English to help make people's lives better by virtue of the world global economy. And you're more marketable if you know English, because English happens to be the language of commerce, right? Lucky me. those of us that are native speakers. English is a tricky language, and you're lucky to know it if you know it, and you're spoiled when you go around the world. I've traveled all over Western Europe and South America and Central America and the Caribbean and now Southeast Asia, and you are spoiled if you speak English. So all of those different reasons, and then ultimately Vietnam has always been a part of my life. It's been my personal life has been impacted by the war, right? I'm blanking out because I'm jet lagged. The late 60s into the mid 70s, right, in the United States. We've all been impacted by that in some way or another. I'm from Houston, Texas, which has the second largest Vietnamese and Vietnamese American population in the United States. So I've always known Vietnamese people. If you're from Houston, you eat banh mi and you eat pho, and you have a friend or a neighbor or a significant other, or if you're like me, I grew up in a church, a Lutheran church in Houston that had a Vietnamese pastor and a Vietnamese congregation. So on Sundays I'd see the Bible in English and in Vietnamese, and Pastor Win would always come in after the English speaking pastor. So that's a thing too. So Vietnam's always just kind of been there. And my sister's favorite teacher in high school was a Vietnamese teacher. I could go on and on. Anyway, the situation, at least in my hometown, is you're exposed, right? I live in a very diverse, or I'm from a very diverse country, and I was from what you could argue is the most diverse city. And as a part of that community, Vietnam was always kind of on my radar. In addition to the personal history and my country's history, right? That's a different video. I have been asked that question. What's it like to be an American in Vietnam? What do people think? Is everyone mad at you everywhere you go? People think that, and I'll address that in another video too. And it's a good question. There's no such thing as a dumb question, or dumb people who ask dumb questions. I don't like saying that either. But that's why Vietnam, and I have totally fallen in love with the people and the culture. As a foreigner and as an English teacher, I have a very low cost of living and a very high quality of life. I don't know if I've posted the apartment video yet as of this recording, but I have like one of the nicest places I've ever lived in, and it is super inexpensive. I don't like the word cheap because that indicates like that it's shabby or whatever, but no, it's incredibly inexpensive to live here. And that'll be another video. So the cost of living, the buzz. I mean, living in Saigon is akin to what I imagine might be living in New York City, right? It's a different animal, but this is the largest city that I've lived in. The city Saigon is about, including the metropolis, the whole sprawl. You're talking about like 10, 12 million people. So there's a buzz here. It's truly a city that never sleeps. You can always hear the horns honking. You can always hear people on the street. It's very safe here, which is new and different. And I get a kick out of it because people warn me, like, be careful out on the streets. And then I show them the pictures of the bullet holes in the classroom where I talk about all the different shady, crazy stuff that I went through traveling in places like Brazil and Spain. Nothing against Brazil or Spain, but just like in the United States, trust me, everywhere is sketchier and more dangerous, at least so far in my experience. And I know I've been here less than 3 months, so you can comment and tell me what an idiot I am because I just got here. But that's my experience so far. Something will happen eventually, but so far I feel like it's safe. The people have been great. They are they certainly value education in a different context. I was eager to teach in a different cultural context. All of these reasons, oh my goodness, listen to all these reasons that I have. The ESL marketplace, personal reasons, just the buzz. The food is great. The women are beautiful. The cost of living, the quality of life. The moment that I found myself in, being inspired by YouTubers who are already here. All of those reasons. I'm looking for a tight 10 minutes on these answer videos. You're a saint for watching, but all of those reasons are why I chose to live in Vietnam. It's a beautiful country, beautiful culture, and all these different social reasons and informed who I am. It's been on the radar, and now it's where I dwell. That's it from me. Peace to you and yours.